Ladies and gentlemen and ladies, welcome to another week, another episode of the Medicine Ball Podcast. You could have chosen to spend your time anywhere. You rock with me today. Thank you. I never take that lightly. Before we get into it, let my beat drop. Yes, that's right. Welcome to Medicine Ball with your boy LS3 to be exact. And if you ain't in shape, at least your brain should be. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Medicine Ball Podcast, where we focus on giving your brain a six-pack by exercising your mind. Now, exercising your mind means that you actively think about and deal with all situations by first seeking to do anything other than what you are normally programmed and or comfortable in doing. Now, if you're someone who struggles and wants to get better at thinking about things beforehand, as opposed to reacting in ways that require less effort, well, just like anything you want to get better at, it does require training, practice, and work. Now, I'm well aware that thinking about things beforehand as opposed to responding off instinct does require effort. And who doesn't prefer things that are easy? Well, the first step, my friends, can be very easy, and that's to begin to look at all things from an unbiased point of view, which in itself will increase your curiosity in life. Now, exercising your mind won't give you all the answers. You will, however, begin to look at things with more peace, understanding, and patience, while simultaneously equipping yourself with more tools and strategies to help you effectively deal with this thing called life. Now, before we go any further, I'm no doctor, no psychiatrist, no psychologist. I have, however, been diagnosed with bipolar disorder level 1 for 16 years. And to be honest, I got to a point in my life where I was looking at the person I was becoming versus the person I wanted to be. And that, among other things, required me to look at my mental health responsibly. So whether or not you're diagnosed or know someone who's diagnosed or have symptoms or just want to know more about it, it doesn't matter. Maybe you're one of the many people who could just use some tips, tricks, and different ideas to help you get through day-to-day life. Pull up a seat, kick up your feet. This is your family, man. Welcome home, no judgment zone. This week's episode 505, Pyramid Scheme. Let's go. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another week of the Medicine Ball Podcast, man. Real quick, I just want to let you know, if you like what I'm wearing here, if you like the Medicine Ball merch, whether it be my website, my Instagram, and I'm slowly adding it to YouTube. This is for those who are viewing it on YouTube, right? You can definitely support me. I have different color schemes that I'm coming out with, and I'm going to do seasons. So I mentioned previously, my brother's really like savvy with shoes, and he does his thing. Shout out to Nick's 3D Kicks. But he's going to help me try to launch some of this merch with logo placement in different colors. So if you like it, go support it. You can go check it out at www.medicineballls3.com. The Wisdom app, please, I'm trying to integrate that more. It's an app that I've been talking about for maybe, if you've been following me the entire time, probably about 2 years since they first made me the offer, and then the launching of the app, then the beta, et cetera, but it's turning out to be something very good because it allows me to answer the questions that you guys ask me, relevant questions, whether it be mental health, personal questions, music questions, anything. Please go check out the Wisdom app. I always post that in the descriptions and the links, as well as on my social medias. Following off of that, I'm gonna go ahead and shout them out, right? Because this is where I want to start building one of the communities, the Fabulous app. Go Google it, go check it out. It's an app that helps you to establish habits, patterns, routines, and just change some things up. And it also holds you accountable. Within the app, they have circles and communities where you can join up and chat with people who are using the app as well. So I think I have 5 free guest passes for a 30-day trial. The app is something like $30 a year. Side note, invest in yourself, man. You can't be cheap when it comes to yourself, right? Invest in yourself. But I do have 5 free passes that are for a 30-day trial. If you want to utilize those passes, the first 5 people that email me, contact me on my Facebook or Instagram at medicineballls3 or under Mambas. First 5 people, I'm going to give you those passes and kind of quarterback getting those to you. But it's a dope app as well. And I wanted to shout that out because, you know, being that this season is about self-development, I think it's important that we focus on our habits, patterns, routines, and kind of lock in more into how we work and how the brain works and what science says, all right? Social media, I just mentioned that. YouTube, I have 3 episodes that are fully edited and they're private and they are on the channel. I see I'm getting more subscriber. I'm doing more shorts. Shouts out to y'all. It is it's a job, man. You know what I mean? It's tedious, but I always come at it, and I thank God, that I have the opportunity to help anybody, to talk to people, and, make myself useful for his kingdom in any way. So it's coming along, chopping wood. That's one thing that I'll always say. I'm continuing to do that. And yeah, expect more with that. Piggybacking off of that, right? I think it's important as I'm talking about this self-development thing that I make it very, very clear and it's on my spirit to do that because I'm always studying and looking to, people for spiritual guidance and just holding myself accountable. But I think it's very important that when I speak on self-development and me specifically being a believer, that I make it very clear that we're full of sin, right? We're never going to be perfect. We're never even going to be good from that aspect of earning our way into heaven. I want to make that very clear. The only reason that I have any good in me and that you have any good in you is the sacrifice, and this is my belief, of Jesus Christ, right? So I just want to make that clear because I try to walk a very, very fine line when it comes to spirituality and this self-development thing, and not being arrogant and not giving myself the glory and not being like, hey, these are all my strategies. No, it's the trials that I go through, the diligence, the prayer, the focus, the studying of the Bible. I'm in Bible study now that allows me to use my talents that he has given me to just, put myself out there on a bigger platform. So it was very, very important to me to make that clear. And that goes into this week's episode, pyramid scheme. Understand it, right? So even with that being said, I'll use Kyrie, Kevin Samuels, Kanye, people of that nature. I think when you have a voice or a platform and you may be intellectually inclined or a little bit more intelligent than the masses, and I mean this in a humbly way, like, it's important that you know your audience, right? And it's important that just because you understand something in a complex way, that doesn't mean that your audience is responsible for that. It's your responsibility to break it down in multiple ways. Now, a big part of this, I believe, comes from leadership opportunities or coaching opportunities. And when I say coaching, I mean like whether it be life coaching or like coaching a team, right? Or maybe leading in the military. I think a lot of that comes from those opportunities and being successful at it. And from that, and as we talk about self-development, when I came into this episode, I was going to discuss Bloom's taxonomy, right? And it was one of my frat brothers who kind of put me on to Google listening to me. I ain't even say nothing. Onto Bloom, but it's basically like a pyramid or a ranking of the levels of comprehension, right? And I'm going to go through it real quick because I decided that I'm not going to get too complex into it because I got to know my audience. So the first level is to remember. The second level is to understand. The third level is to be able to apply. The fourth level is to be able to analyze. The fifth level is to be able to evaluate. And the sixth level and the highest level is to be able to create, right? So y'all can go look that up. Y'all can pause. Y'all can rewind it if y'all want to hear those. But that's where it started. Now, when it comes to leadership and you having a platform or you deciphering information to an audience, man, one thing that I believe is like a hard cutoff when it comes to these levels is the ability to explain what you understand in a way that somebody who's never seen it and doesn't even know the definitions involved with it can understand, right? So I use music all the time because from my years of experience and what I've learned from my studying of music and dealing with people in leadership, I feel like that's something that I can explain complex in a very, very simple way. Right. So, for instance, if I'm starting a beat production or beat creating, that means the music that you hear behind a song, the instrumental, right? What do we need? What things do we need? How can I explain this to somebody who doesn't understand? Well, the first thing you need is a tempo, right? Rhythm, the thing that gets your fingers snapping, the thing that makes you move at a certain pace or at a certain beat, right? You need that before you go to create anything that's going to have to do with music. You have to identify that. What is tempo? Easy way to explain it. That's the speed of the song, right? When you go through and you start counting out beats, bars, choruses, hooks, and verses, there's a reason why it's 3 verses and a hook and a bridge equals out to be about 3 minutes and 30 seconds and so forth and so on. Right? It's mathematics behind it. So once you figure that out, you want to figure out from the music side, and this is just sound, we're not talking drums, what key, what note, what sound you're going to be in. They're related. So what do you want this whole composition to be on? There's different, scales. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That comes from a scale, right? From C major, which is in the MIDI board. It comes from that. It scales. So those tones, they're called tones. Boom. You see how I'm able to just get into it? They're called tones. So those tones break down and have relations to each other in order to sound appeasing to the ear, right? So once you figure out what key, what tone, what note, what sound you're going to be in, you begin to build off of that. Now you start playing multiple tones or sounds or notes together. That's when you get into triads and fourths, and it's a number of keys that you're pressing, and so on and so on. But it's just like, that's just a brief example of like how I could really get down into it and break that down to somebody who don't know nothing about music, because I've the levels again: remember, understand, applied, analyze, evaluate, and able to create. All right. So I want to pause right there. All right. So I'll second, because I'm about to take off real quick. And side note, if you want to ever engineer, get into music making, here's something you should always remember: Control or Apple key and S. That's going to save it. Right. So I had to save it. Talking about, the music reminded me, as I'm experimenting with the video and the audio simultaneously, save everything, right? Always be saving, ABS. But anyway, so I want to pause real quick on this pyramid scheme, like, because I kind of told y'all about the levels, and I got into like Kevin Samuels, who's very controversial, and Kyrie Irving, Kanye West, and when I talk to my friends about it, I'm like, because there's levels in everything, and it's like, as smart as these individuals are, they still fall short because they don't understand. It's not necessarily what you're saying, right? It's what you're saying to the audience, which is the masses. So I gotta do a side note on this. So I always talk about this movie, man. Yo, let me give you a disclaimer real quick. If you in the peanut gallery, if you on one of these lower levels, because I'm gonna break it down into 4 and give y'all tips on it and everything, but like, as we get into the self-development, and I'm laughing because these are conversations and things that I always have and hold myself accountable for. And I know if you're not a person who does that, it could be offensive, right? So I just need to let a disclaimer know, like, so feelings may get hurt when I start getting to talking about these intellectual and comprehension levels and where you may be. And I made a post online about that. And before I even get into this, I want to go back to what I said about that post. If it offends you that you may not be on the same intellectual level as someone else, like, you never gonna move, right? Because you got to understand, like I just said, like, nobody's perfect. There's always room for improvement. And the people at those higher levels realize that they're like maybe not even at those higher levels. Okay, so this is not an offensive thing. This is for people. These are serious conversations with ourselves to hold ourselves accountable. All right. So I always speak to this movie with Luke Wilson, one of my favorite. I don't know. I like him, because he's with the Will Ferrell clique and all of them. But anyway, it's called Idiocracy, Idocracy, and it be little movies like this and situations like this that stick out to me in my life, and in a humble way, that's how I'll be knowing, like, I'm not maybe on the same level as a majority. But long story short, in the movie, they talk about how, like, I mean, basically the stupid outbreed the smart. I don't know how else to say it, right? If you want to get offensive by that, the less intelligent end up, because they're less intelligent, outbreeding the smart ones who are like focused on college and anything. I'm not going to get into it. Go check the movie out, right? So boom, let me piggyback on just that idea that there's probably more people on, and it's not a bad thing, but just like on lower or sheep or follower levels than the people on the higher levels. That's how it works. Like, if you believe that, a majority of people will tell you that they believe that a majority of the income and power and wealth belongs to a very small percentage. So just based off of that logic alone, is it unreasonable to believe that that percentage, or the smaller percentage who has the more power, whatnot, is in a higher, different intellectual pyramid category? Anyway, it's probably, I'm about to show my age. It's probably been like 15 years minimum now, if not 20. And there was this interview with Bill O'Reilly, Dame Dash, Cameron, and some principal from a high school who was trying to tell these folks that, now this is on Fox, right? You can go YouTube this. And it's funny because you can bounce levels. We're gonna get into this, but it's not. But you could go Google it, and Dame and Cameron are intelligent, but they end up getting on there just clowning, right? And I was young when I first saw this, and the principals pretty much say it like, "Yo, your lyrics are affecting the kids at my school." And Cameron's argument was like, "Well, it ain't my responsibility; it's the parents' responsibility." And the principal was like, "Well, what if they don't have parents?" And Cameron was like, "Well, who's taking them to school? If they going to school, they got parents." And he's just pretty much brushing it off, right? So he's being, New Yorkish talking trash, like, "Yo, you mad?" Cutting off Bill O'Reilly and everything, and deflecting, picking at the principal. And even now, as I'm telling it, it's funny, right? But it's ignorant funny. And that's the thing in a lot of these situations, or if you're a person who's accountable or emotionally disciplined, you're going to realize when you're doing something that ain't right. But it's ignorant funny, right? Because at the very end of that interview, that black dude, after I had laughed through all of that, he looked in the camera and he said, and this, I never forget this stuck with me, bro. He said, "Yo, gentlemen, to an intelligent audience, you didn't make hip hop look smart today. To a smart audience, you didn't make hip hop look smart today." Because Dame Dash was talking about, "Yo, I got all these programs for kids in the school, et cetera, et cetera." And my man, at the end of it, because of the way that they carried themselves, and I was young and I caught it even then, he was like, "You ain't make hip hop look good today." And that really stuck with me. Like, yo, he's right. To the smart people, or the people who we probably want to change these schools and give us more money or so forth and so on, we look like a fool. And even with that particular, like, there's memes about it. There's a gif right now of Cameron saying, "You mad?" If you ever seen that gif that says "You mad" with Cameron, it's from that interview, right? Ignorant, right? And even now, very rarely, a matter of fact, anybody I've watched that with previously, I've never heard nobody like mention that. I was the only person, like, and of course I've changed my environment and so forth and so on, but like around that time I remember it was really like kind of key to me that, like, yeah, it was funny in an ignorant way. But side note on that, because there's a whole bunch of stuff that I just see that just be like affecting me and sticking out to me, and it be harsh. I seen something a couple of years ago that said black folks don't know how to take stuff serious, and it was a black person post, and it was funny. And even under the post, we cracking jokes, right? But that stuck out to me. A lot of times we don't take stuff serious. We joke too much and then want somebody to take us serious, right? But boom, anyway, matter of fact, hold on, let me build on that, all right? Another thing that stuck out to me, because I'm always studying up on things. Somebody said, like, once you get to a certain level of money, it ain't no racism. A KKK member, if he's a millionaire and he see a chance to make more millions with this dude who's the hoodest dude ever, he's gonna get that money. He's not gonna say, very rarely, but I'm talking super rich. Because a couple million ain't even rich. I'm talking about the billionaires, bro. They don't see no color. They see rich, poor bars, and that's what we don't get. But we getting into it with the levels of thinking. But going back to this Dame Dash thing, like, that really stuck out to me. So I want to relate it to today, right? And I know some people go get mad, but okay. See, and that's the thing, man. Logic don't really got no emotions, right? So you getting mad or your feelings hurt doesn't really mean it ain't true. So about 2 days ago, I hop on social media, and mind you, as I mature in what I do with the medicine ball thing, I'm not even gonna lie to you, like, bro, I'm starting to hate social media. But I know I need it in order to do what I'm trying to do successfully, right? But about 2 days ago, I started seeing all these little cartoons pop up. Well, I ain't gonna say I started seeing them. I saw one person with this anime thing, right? And a matter of fact, pause. I'm gonna tell you even how my family think. Pause. Nah, it wasn't 2 days ago. Last week, y'all can go check my Instagram, Medicine Ball LS3. My brother sent me a cartoon of my dog, of Mamba. Right? He was like, "Yo, my homeboy showed me how to da 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 da," and it was of my dog, and I posted it. Right? Like a day, and I didn't put it together. I didn't put it all together until after I looked at it and was like, "Look at this." So I posted that. Now, about 2 days later, I seen a human do it. Just one person I know on my feed, right? And mind you, I'm talking about pyramid schemes, and I'm relating it to an intellect level. So we're talking about the different levels of intellect and people, right? That's what we're relating this to. And we're talking about sheep and there being more followers. I'm just giving y'all a life example, right? So I saw one person on my, and it always happens like this with these little trends on my timeline, do it, right? By today, like 48, I get on there, bro. It looked like Naruto or Inuyasha or like Crunchyroll. Like it looked like I'm in Japan on Facebook, right? Now, I often talk about my dark side where I can joan and roast, right? So I try not to use it. I do it in my head, but it's just like the first thing that I identify, and I'm not even trying to like pick at nobody, but it's just like there's this thing of people not being happy with how they look, and this is just for real. They're not happy with themselves. Instead of doing something about it, it's easier to use an app because the folks that I saw, and it was primarily women. I wish I would anyway, that was using it like, yo, it just don't look like you. I'm just gonna say that. I'm just gonna say that. Y'all can put that together however y'all want to put that together, right? So of course now everybody's doing it. And my old me, I made a little snide. It wasn't even snide or rude, but just a remark about like, yo, it looks like Crunchyroll on my timeline. I guess I'm getting old. But follow me. Follow me now. Do y'all remember about maybe like 3 or 4 years ago? It couldn't even been that long because I remember talking about it on the podcast. They were doing this old face challenge. And everybody did the old face challenge. Only to find out that the old face challenge was hacking phones and giving up information from Russians, which we later find out by fact is feasible due to them messing with the election. But I ain't gonna get all into that. But all I'm saying is, to an intellectual person, it's feasible, right? You see how quickly we forget if we follow a majority? I would not be shocked if people talking about something going on my phone in about a couple days because of this cartoon hack. It's a follower thing, man. And it goes back to that movie Idiocracy, the majority versus the minority. I play Halo a lot. I relate it, and in my head, I'm real enough to say sometimes it is in an arrogant way, but I would never display it personally. That's stuff that I'm working on internally. But I feel in my head like it's like Halo sometimes. If you're familiar with that game, it's like one Spartan and a million enemies. It's more than one Spartan, but you get my drift, right? So let's fast forward all of this to my job. I want y'all to follow me because I'm going somewhere with this. And it's probably like this with all management jobs, but I think like virtually people get more emboldened. So at my job, they have attendance points, right? And mind you, I deal with a wide variety of personalities. And some of the people that my initial interaction with them, like from my side, trying to be a reasonable person, it was just out of control, rude, disrespectful. And plus, I can go ahead and speak on it because my boss told me. She give me the trouble people. So after you done cussed out one of your bosses or chumped out the trainer or something like that, and you cussing people out, you probably gonna end up on my team. And my boss, even though she's in a higher level with her position, mental, like this, when we come to this intellect, she's not that high because, like, I don't know if she don't think I can see it or I'm oblivious to it. When she comes in there, like, yeah, this person, they just need a little bit more. Like, instead of just keeping it real with me, that's another story, right? Because I know how to play the game. But there'll be a problem with something, right? So early on, when because again, virtually is different. When you 6'1" and somebody's 5'3" and they live a couple of states over and all they doing is typing, they gonna pop off. They gonna feel real emboldened to do and say certain things that they just not gonna say to my face. And I'm not saying that as if I'm a tough guy, but it's just like, bro, when you look at somebody and really like, you see what I'm saying? But anyway, early on through my pre-trials, and this is why I be thankful to God for the trials ahead of the trials, I learned before I was officially in that position, when I was kind of like the intern manager, that like you can't just get mad and obliterate these people. Let's relate it to sports. If you a coach, Bro, you can't just fire everybody on the team. Furthermore, it behooves you to have your players be happy so they will perform well, right? So once I tried to be too firm and I got HR'd to death, Billy the Kid, you know what I'm saying, and learned, I realized a couple of things like what you're gonna go through. Number one, from a business standpoint, what you're gonna go through to probably terminate somebody, to me and who I am, was a cop out rather than giving them a chance and trying to understand them. Right now, I will humbly say, and I ain't gonna get too deep into this because it makes me like bashful, but like my team members always say stuff, and these people been in the workforce where they're like, yo, you really care, I really get it, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, I also realized early on and took early on that, like, if you're a leadership position and somebody on your team don't like their job, 9 times out of 10 they don't like you, right? So these are things that I just kind of went into some of these tougher situations understanding, right? So I will let you know when I started realizing that I needed to focus more on the understanding levels in order to communicate and be successful, not only as a manager, but as a coach and a leader and somebody that people come to for advice and so on. I realized very early on that, so boom. So anyway, so I'm talking about some of these rough situations, and there would be situations where we have attendance points at my work. Let me get back to that. And, I'm just going to throw out some arbitrary numbers. Let's like say you got to get to 10 attendance points to get fired, right? And I have the power, depending on what happened, to block or remove attendance points. There have been situations where me trying to extend the olive branch and knowing that a person isn't angry at me because they don't know me, or maybe their attitude is because they got something else going on in their life, or just to try to make peace, I will give people their attendance points back or cover them. And then when it undoubtedly down the line hits the fan, or it's time to address the points because they've gone over, even though I've refunded 1,000,000 of them, bro, they will go into HR and straight up be like, oh, he gave me back attendance points when he wasn't supposed to. Now, mind y'all, I'm tenderhearted, right? I understand that about me. I'm lion-hearted. Like, I'm ferocious, but I'm sensitive. So the first time that joint happened, I was hurt. I was hurt. I was confused. I was angry. I was like, bro, I'm trying to help you out. I could just be smoking your boots. Now, mind you, I'm looking at my peers, a majority of them women, African-American women, and they got kids and stuff. But long story short, they ain't playing that. They just smoking folks, right? So when my boss started like actually coming to reprimand me for that after she told me don't obliterate them, work with them. This is another story we're going to get into down in this self-development with her, and she played herself. But anyway, I started trying to just think about like, why would people do this? Like, I'm trying to help them. I'm being da, 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 da. And that's when I started looking more into the Bloom's taxonomy and the levels of intellect. And I started realizing a couple of things. The first thing was like, you can't try to understand somebody who you're not like. So for instance, if you're a punctual person and somebody's late every day, even though they're working from home and their computer's probably in their bedroom to where they got to literally sit up and press Control Alt Delete. If that's not the person you are, there's nothing you can do to try to understand that behavior. It's not going to make sense to you. Furthermore, if you try to make sense out of it or try to get that person to where you are and why it doesn't make sense, they're not going to get it. Y'all going to have a turbulent relationship and you're going to get frustrated. You're going to get frustrated, right? So I think it's important here that I take a pause so I can speak to another thing when it comes to these levels, right? In sports, there's a phrase or a term or whatever you want to call it that's playing to your competition. Now, and it's really playing down to your competition. And that's in these situations where you might see an undefeated team, right? An undefeated team. If y'all can hear Mamba snoring, I apologize. An undefeated team may play against a team who hasn't won one game. And the players, the personnel, the statistics will tell you that that should be a clear blowout. It happens all the time with college. Like, I'll give you an example. College football rivalry games is when you most often see this happen. And that undefeated team will either have a hard time with that team who hasn't won a game, or they'll actually lose to the team that hasn't won a game. And the reason why is because they're playing down to their competition. Now, this is a form of mental laziness and not another term that comes from sports. Keep your foot on their neck. Don't let up. That's where that comes from. We don't care that these folks ain't won a game and we got all 5-star recruits. You go out there, run through the drill, keep your foot on the neck, right? So what happens when you play down to the level of your competition is, for whatever reason, when you mentally lazy, you may not play defense as hard. You may not rush to the rebound as hard. You may not focus on the play as hard. And you'll see little things in the statistics that will tell you this will happen. It'll be a bunch of turnover. There'll be a bunch of penalties. There'll be a bunch of missed opportunities, whether it be shots, hits, whatever. A bunch of mental lazy moments. And that will end up resulting in the loss. So when we come to this thing, and this is what I was just alluding to, when it's like, if you're dealing with someone, if you're punctual and you're dealing with someone who's not punctual, if you start trying to get them to come, you're going to play down intellectually to their level. And that's what I realized was happening to me. And a lot of times when people would do things or say things, or even now do things or say things to try to purposely get me upset. Like, it wouldn't even, in retrospect, some of the things didn't even make sense, right? What happens is when you engage and those situations don't work out the way you think they should, and you're the more intellectual, or I'll say aware person in that situation, is you play down to your competition. And it's just like, heck, you could take some NFL players who play with pads and probably line them up against the number one flag football team in the country or the world. And I'm not going to say they're going to lose, but they're not going to blow them out. Because that's a different situation. You're going from a situation where you're having collisions with folks to where you can't collide with folks, right? So that would be a situation of you stepping out of your zone or stepping out of your level to try to get someone else somewhere. And that's not efficient. And you can blow opportunities in your life. You can have situations where you lose people in your life. You can have situations where you miss opportunities in your life when you're not aware of these intellectual levels, especially for people who are in leadership or trying to be a leader. And I have to imagine that this can relate also to being a parent. Matter of fact, it has to, logically, right? If your 2-year-old's throwing a tantrum, what you going to do? Throw a tantrum with the 2-year-old? You're going to lose that. You're going to look crazy. The 2-year-old's going to get you feel what I'm saying? You don't want to play down to your level. So keeping in line with everything. I know I'll be going everywhere, but my points really, I try to keep them together. And at the beginning, I said it's important to know your audience. This podcast is no different. So what I've done was, instead of taking taxonomy, I went and found something easier to kind of describe the levels. So the first thing I did was I cut it to 4 levels. And what we're going to do here real quick before I wrap up is I'm going to give you the 4 levels that you can start to think about and focus on, and ways that you can improve, right? This is all about self-improvement. So the first thing I have here is a picture, and it's an overall, and I love this because it's a way to like describe how these four stages of thinking are in a simple way. Back to what I was saying on the audience, right? They assume if you're looking this up, you might need this. So it's just a cup. It looks like a Starbucks cup or something like that. And stage 1 thinking is it's a cup. Stage 2 thinking is it's a good cup or a bad cup. Stage 3 thinking is it looks good, but costs too much. Stage 4 thinking is it's not only for drinking. That's a big jump from it's a cup to it's not only from drinking. And I think that's a beautiful illustration of like how deep it gets. One of them is just focused on this whole idea of a cup and drinking, and one of them just totally away from it. So let's start at the beginning based on those 4 levels. The level 1 is the beginning thinker. And this is pretty much when you fail to think independently. You start to believe, this goes back to what I was just saying about idiocracy, the anime, and all this other stuff. You start to believe what a majority or what society tells you. So I just want to start there because I'm going to come back and I'm going to give y'all all the hacks. So level 1 thinking is you fail to think independently. You will start to believe everything the majority and that people in society tell you, rather than think on your own. That's a beginning thinker. Level 2. This is a trapped in binary opposition thinker, right? Um, Without looking at the definition, this is duality, good, bad, white, black. A lot of people at my job be asking me questions and they be wanting what I call umbrella answers. And I'm like, yo, why y'all be trying to buy answers? Right? It's like, it depends on the situation. And I even realized that going, me being at a different intellectual level than them to understand, like, yo, bro, it's not that easy, right? Binary. You look, just like I said, duality. You look at things as right or wrong, black or right, whatever, whatever. You're unable to accept the ambiguities of everyday life. Fall into the trap of a confirmation bias, which means that you only accept information compatible with your stance and simply for opposing ideas. You set in your ways. I'm gonna give y'all layman's terms. You have an inability to look at things from outside of your point of view. Now, Bloom's taxonomy got 6 levels. This has 4. It's a lot of people in this level. A lot. There's a lot of people who bounce from this level if they're a higher level one, but this right here is a bulk. And this is because of a lack of self-awareness. This is because you have a lack of empathy. But if you can't see outside of yourself and your ideas, you need to travel or something. Well, pause. I'm going to come back and give y'all all the ways to get through these afterward. Let's continue. Let's go to level 3 thinking. This means that you're able to start to see things from more than one dimension, specifically probably your dimension. So that means that you're able to judge things from more than one point of view, right? But when we relate it to the cup, when you buy the cup, you know that cups with higher prices are more durable and cups with lower quality cost less money. So you can see the pros and cons of things and judge the validity of information and read logically. But you still have a narrow perspective than the level 4 thinker, right? It's almost like this thinking here is too critical without the empathetic understanding aspect. That's layman's terms. So that's what happens here. And level 4 thinker, this means you connect the dots and think in multiple dimensions. So let me start off by saying is this dimension starts with understanding that, yo, you wrong and you probably wrong a lot. And I know with me and leadership and when I'm coaching, a lot of the times I run into problems is because I be accepting things about myself and my flaws so much easier than other people that it can appear that I'm not because I'm not dramatic with it. I analyze and look at my strength and my weaknesses so often that when I make a mistake or when I do something wrong, I could be like, yo, I'm going to do better at that and know I'm going to get better at it. And I don't got to do, oh my God, I don't have to do the dramatics. And I think a lot of time people look at the dramatics. That's what just happened with Kyrie. My man said he was sorry 25 times, but he wasn't dramatic with it. So when you start to go into this level 4, now I want y'all to understand, if you're in a level 4, you're going to understand that you bounce between these levels. Level 2 is probably the lowest you're going to bounce. And if you're on a level 4, you'll realize when you go to the level 2 and you probably hold yourself accountable. Right? So a level 4 thinker, people will be amazed by your strong intuition when making decisions. Deep down, though, you know that mature critical thinking ability enables you to connect things, the seemingly irrelevant dots. And so you can see things from a much wider perspective than others. While you're used to thinking outside the box, even when you encounter an unfamiliar problem, you can instantly identify the root of the problem. How often y'all hear me say root cause, even the people in my life, and come up with the most effective solution. That's a level 4 thinker. So I'm not going to overwhelm y'all. I'm going to go right back through them and I'm going to give y'all ways to get there. And I'm going to challenge you to do that as part of your self-development. Be honest with yourself. You in the peanut gallery, you a level 1 thinker. Level 2, where you at? So level 1 thinker, let's start there. All right. So level 1 thinker, that's a beginning thinker, right? And that's a person who believes what others or a majority kind of tells you. You're susceptible to, following the crowd. So in order to change this mindset, you have to start to solve your own problems. You have to stop relying on what society and a majority tells you and challenge it. Start to solve your own problems. Take responsibility for for the things that you've gotten yourself into, and at least attempt to get yourself out. Most often people quit or don't even attempt because it's the easiest thing to do. All right. So being that that's level one, the resolution is pretty straightforward. Level two, this is the binary thinker. This is the duality thinker. Black, right, black, white, wrong. This, that. The people who find it hard to, the people who don't understand there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? You have to recognize the areas in your life that are not so cut and dry, right? The things where there may be some confusion in there, or that you may not have all the answers for. The areas that you know that you're not 100% aware or sure of, or sure of how to solve, you have to start identifying those and build on that. The reason you have to identify those is because that's going to open you up to this idea of opposing ideas. A lot of people don't trust themselves, let alone trust someone else, even outside of the science. Some people will argue with like, bro, I'll give you an example, right? And I'm going to use my mom, bless her heart. I was an insurance underwriter with a team for a while, right? And me and my mom was having a conversation about just like driving and insurance rates. And she tried to argue me down about this. And the whole time I'm thinking in my head, like, she ain't never been an insurance underwriter, right? So that's just giving an example of that situation, man. But you have to identify the things in your life that you're not sure about. If your finance is not right, bro, you need to be able to identify, like, well, maybe I don't have this all the way figured out. And then build on that to being like, well, maybe I can learn something from somewhere else. Until you start to truly understand and accept that there are opposing ideas out there that go against your own, bro, you're going to be stuck in this level too. And the thing that traps you in there is yourself. So that's a bonus point. Get out your own way. Level 3, being able to think from more than one dimension, but you kind of take the empathy out of it. So if I had to identify an area that I need to work on, that I'm probably in, it's probably here, because like I said, sometimes I don't put empathy into all of it, right? So I often say that I'm sensitive, and I know I can be sensitive, but this one is challenging because you have to challenge yourself with this, right? Furthermore, the thing that makes this difficult is the things that you're most often challenging are deeply enrooted in you, such as your time management, organization, listening to people. You have to realize there's no definite answer for everything. And this one is a little higher than level 2 because you have to darn near every day go about it like this. Because it's almost like you got a little knowledge, but you got to check yourself and realize, bro, because you see what I mean? So with this one, you have to challenge some of your deeply rooted habits and assumptions about ideas and things on a deeper level, like fundamentally things. This could be religion, how you feel about gender. It could be a majority of things that you probably ingrained a long time that you need to challenge, right? Level 4, bars. How could the level 4 have something to help you, to make you better? It's nothing on the internet about it, but I feel like it's unspoken. And I heard Dave Chappelle was the first person who I heard say this, but I'm sure it came from Einstein or something. The more you know, the more you don't know. Don't be mentally lazy. Always challenge it every day. This requires a lot of meditation, a lot of prayer, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of silence, a lot of journaling. You got to get this stuff about your head. And it's ongoing. And you'll never just sit at level 4. You'll always fluctuate because we're human. All right? This is the pyramid scheme, man. I will expound upon this more. I think I've given y'all a lot of detail. I think this is a good episode. I'm filming at the same time with this. Go check my YouTube. Go check my social medias. Like, subscribe, share. About to take Mamba outside. We're going to do some reflecting. Yo, try something different, right? If you're someone who's been going through a lot of things and it doesn't seem like anything's changing, you might be stuck on level 2. Except that you may not know the answer and you have flaws like we all do. Because until you realize that you have areas of opportunity to improve or need work on, it's going to be hard for you to be open into hearing any feedback or any advice from anybody, whether or not they know more than you or not, all right? Y'all stay up. Episode 505, Pyramid Scheme. Yo, I'm out next week, y'all. I got to travel. Go follow my social medias to see where I'm at. I'm going to be on Wisdom next week. I'm going to come back the week after that with the interview. And stay on my social medias. I'm going to be updating y'all. We doing some things for the kids, whether it be a toy drive, a donation, clothing drive. We doing that. Shout out to my man King Quill. We doing the 12 days of Christmas. I'll keep y'all posted on that. Until next week, I love y'all. Stay up. Yo, learn something every day. Do something to lessen somebody suffering every day. Do those 2 things. Y'all stay up. I love y'all. Yeah.